Are these heavy-duty Costco storage racks actually worth it? Let's find out. This 4-shelf Gorilla Rack from Costco is $299. Now that's kind of expensive for a shelving unit, but it's also bigger than a lot of other storage units and way more heavy duty. So let's dig into it throughout this video and hopefully find out for you if that price point of $299 is worth it. Now I've seen that now they actually have, I believe it's taller and it has 5 shelves and it's basically the same rack, but more shelving. And that one's like $349 right now on Costco's website. So if you want that, if you want something a little taller, that could work for you as well. But I've had these shelves for a little while now. I've set them up actually a couple times because I set them up once. I've since moved, and now I've got this one set up here, and I'm about to set up my other one. And so let's talk a little bit about the setup and how easy it is versus how hard it is. Honestly, this shelf is easier to set up than a lot of the other shelving that I've done. You know, the ones like with the particle board that come in all the pieces? There's a couple reasons why. Let's look at these. These are the verticals. And as you can see, one vertical piece goes all the way from bottom to top. It means that it like takes up more space in the packaging, so the packaging is longer, but it's one solid piece. With those other shelving units, it's actually 2 pieces. It breaks in half in the middle, which causes a couple of things. One, it forces you to put a shelf right in the center, so you have a little bit less flexibility on the height of each of your shelves, right? The spacing of the shelves. But also it makes it a little bit less sturdy. This is solid and this is sturdy. Beyond that, the setup is actually really easy. It's easier with 2 people than it is on your own, but I'm gonna show you doing it on my own that it's actually really, really, really easy. It's not any more complicated than those other setups, but honestly, I think it goes together a little bit easier and actually holds together a lot firmer. All right, speaking of firmness, let's talk a little bit about the build quality. Again, the uprights, as well as the cross pieces and all the supports are all built out of solid steel. And then the racks are like, I don't know, maybe aluminum, but they're a wire, right? I'm not sure exactly what the material is, but it's a wire rack instead of like particle board like you get, again, with those other cheaper shelving units. Because of that, with the cross supports, there's one in the middle as well as because it's wire and not particle board, you don't get the bow that you often get with particle board shelving, especially if you have anything remotely heavy on those shelves. These units are freestanding. Once you assemble them, they're totally freestanding. They don't need to be bolted to the wall or anything. They're, again, completely freestanding. They do have holes in the bottom, so you could literally bolt them to the floor if you wanted to, but totally freestanding. Again, solid built, welded. They're 72 inches tall at full height, which is 6 feet, which is right my height, so it lines up just right. And fully assembled, they weigh 182.9 pounds. That's one of the downsides of these shelving units is they're heavy. And so once you've assembled it, moving it is a little bit more of a pain. It is doable. It's totally doable. 182 pounds if you had a couple people. I shouldn't say a couple people, really. In any sort of work environment, no one person should be lifting more than 50 pounds. And so you would need 4 people. We've had 2 people just pick them up and carry them. It is heavy. So that's a little bit of a struggle. Now, if I needed to move this around, once I had it assembled, I could easily just kind of pick up one end. I'll show you. I could just kind of pick up one end and slide it like that and move it around that way, especially like in my garage, right? No big deal. And especially if I took everything off of it. But they are kind of big and cumbersome. On the other hand, they're so sturdy compared to other shelving units, again, because of just how solid they are, and the way that the shelves attach. The shelf brackets attach in such a way, it's just really, really, really solid. And so, because of that, when I go to move it around, it doesn't tend to fall apart on me like a lot of other shelves do. Okay, so now along the lines of this build quality, I gotta tell you, one of the things that makes these shelves stand out, it's not even a comparison with other shelving options, is just the capacity, how much they can hold. Each shelf has a capacity, as long as, you know, the weight's fairly evenly distributed across it. It's rated for 2,000 pounds per shelf. It's nuts. So you're gonna be able to put whatever stuff from your garage onto these shelves without any trouble. Let's see how long this actually takes to assemble. Start a stopwatch. We're going. All we need is a mallet, and really you can get by even without one. All right. One of these on each end. It helps if you have something you can lean it up against or having a person to help you. Oh, you know what I forgot? This is awesome. Another tip here, I don't even need this one, which means I can just buy more cross pieces if I want and get more shelving later. This will actually work better. I'll set this aside. Because since I'm building two together in a row, I literally can just attach this to the other vertical. And that just slides right in there like that. Pull this one over. That slides in there. Little tap. That's not going anywhere. Each shelf gets 3 of these. And they just slide in. They have little hook spots so you can see where they go. Just like that. From what I know, it doesn't matter kind of which side goes up. So I'm just kind of picking one and going with it. All that it changes is kind of which direction the wires are going. You might want to do it with the wires perpendicular to the wall being up, because then things slide in and out easier. I'm actually doing it the other way. I don't really know why. I'm gonna flip it. All right, next level. I'm just setting the height based on how I had it before. And this is probably, I don't know, maybe one of the trickier parts is making sure that you're level. If you're not level, it's not gonna go in on both sides very well. So if it goes in, you're probably fine. See that? Like, I can tell that's not level and it's not gonna go all the way down. The mount's actually more necessary when you're taking it apart than when you're putting it together. I also like how these can slide straight in. Yes, I get that that means that the shelf material, this wire, doesn't extend between the two different shelving units, but I don't mind. With the other ones, you kind of have to go in funny at like this angle like this to get it to fit between the brackets or between the shelving supports. All right, now I'm not quite done, but I'm gonna take a second of my time just to show you that I'm pretty dang confident in these shelves. I don't weigh 2,000 pounds, but I'm not a little guy either. And there's no rock to it. It's solid. I love these shelves. Sweet, even with my detours. 7 minutes, 43 seconds. Doesn't take that long, even by yourself. All right, now back to the discussion here. So let's just talk about the pros and cons of these shelves on their own. The first pro is actually their price. Now I mentioned them as maybe a little bit more costly than other shelving options, but for what they are, for this like really rigid, sturdy type of shelf and a solid steel shelf, they're actually more affordable than a lot of other options you're gonna find online. Number two, just because again, how sturdy they are and how much they're rated for, you're gonna be able to put heavy and bulky items on these shelves, no problem. These totes are full of gear. I mean, this is rock climbing gear, this is camping gear. This is all outdoor gear, and it's not light. These totes are not light. There's no even flex happening here, right? Whereas these exact same totes on our other shelving, putting 2 of these on a shelf would be about at the capacity of really what they can handle. Not to mention I've had the issue where, again, because of the spacing required on those shelves, because they have you have to have a connection right in the center, I end up only being able to have 2 of the shelves and then maybe the top be able to fit a lot of these bins, and the others end up being the spacing ends up too small. And so I have to put other stuff. I can't just put bins on all the shelves. I do only get 4 total shelves here, where with a lot of those other units, I would get 5 in the same height, but it allows me to fit bins, which is how a lot of my stuff is stored anyway. Another pro is the height of every single shelf is completely adjustable. This could go down about 1.5 inches from where it's at. I guess it's about maybe 2 inches, but every 2 inches, I've got another option. So I can make each shelf as adjustable as I want to. So you set your heights exactly where you want them, and you leave it at that. And then another pro is just as these are loaded, and I mean, I have only stuff up top where it's heavy and where it's high, and still I've got no wobble to these shelves. They're just solid, they're just sturdy, it's not going anywhere. But no product is perfect. So let's talk about the cons of this setup. One, I mentioned that again, compared to other shelving, I only get 4 shelves. But another one is because the shelves are wire, I mentioned that kind of as a pro earlier in this video. I don't get the same flex and stuff that I get with particle board. It doesn't wear out like particle board. If it gets damp, it's not ruined like particle board, but because it's wire with these holes in it, stuff falls through. So if you have anything small, it doesn't hold that stuff very well. Now, you could very easily put a really just thin layer of any sheeting that you want to use, some plywood or particle board. You could put that on top of the wire and that would resolve that issue. But the shelves as they come, anything small that gets dropped is gonna just fall through. I did mention this earlier, but because they're so heavy, they are a little bit hard to move once they've been fully assembled, and especially once they're loaded. They're just really heavy. And then also, these are a longer, I mentioned they're 6 feet high, but they're also 6 feet long. You can see my span here. They're about 6 feet long. And because of that, like they're bigger. Most other shelving units are like 4 feet long. They're bigger than a lot, and so if you don't have the space for such a big shelving unit, it's just big, it's just bulky. The pro of that is that with one shelf here, or with one setup here, you get 2 more feet of shelving space than you get with, again, those kind of smaller, other less expensive shelving setups. But on the other hand, it's also bigger, which takes up more space. So here's my big takeaway with these shelves. If you need heavy duty storage for your garage, you have bulky items, you got big totes, something like that, or you just have other things that are big and maybe kind of heavy, this is gonna be an excellent setup for you. Also, if you wanna have a lot of good storage for a reasonable price, it's a great setup for you. But if what you need is something a little bit more light duty, these shelves are a little bit overkill, and also they're just gonna cost you more than the cheaper options with the particle board shelf. These shelves, just like any other product, they're not perfect, but they are a great value for a lot of homeowners. So if you are gonna buy them and you have room for more than one, I recommend getting more than one at once. Buy what you're gonna need all together if you can, because these do often sell out pretty quickly in the stores. So here's my question for you. Would you use these shelves or would you do something totally different? I've seen bin storage. Obviously there's the less expensive particle board shelves, which I have some of here as well. There's also ceiling storage. There's all sorts of different kinds of storage. Would you use these? Have you used these? And what are your thoughts on them? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more honest reviews of actual practical home stuff and DIY things and tools and hardware, all sorts of things like that, you're gonna wanna subscribe to Fixter because that is one of the things that we do here. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you all next time.